Finally, our guest of honor, Dr. Karan Gupta, an educationist, an activist, and a columnist is an alumnus of IE and Harvard Business School and has degrees in psychology, business, and law. He's the founder of Karan Gupta Education Foundation, Karan Gupta Consulting, and the managing director of IE Business School of South Asia. Since 1999, he has counseled and given career guidance to thousands of students in India and around the world. He is also a writer with the Times of India and Economic Times and contributes columns as well as articles on career and study abroad. He has received various awards, being National Education Award, Times Genius Award, Times Education Awards, and many more. And he's also been shown and featured as the rising star on Bloomberg TV. He has been awarded by the House of Lords in London for his outstanding contribution to education. As a social activist, he works with the underprivileged and focuses on children and women empowerment. And he has founded the I Am Woman, a platform that celebrates the awards and inspiration of women. He champions the cause of skill development programs for physically and mentally challenged people. He also is a TEDx and motivational speaker, encouraging people to achieve their goals, and has spoken at various platforms, including education conferences at NAFSA, NAFSA, and Wharton Business School in the US, Harvard Business School, and various schools and colleges in India. We are truly honored to have you, sir, and I'm glad that everyone is here will be listening and taking your advice in. Yes, sir. We are very happy to have you here.
Thank you very much for that kind but extremely long introduction. I thought it would end faster, but thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank the team at Maestro Week and HR College for having me here today. We have a very exciting webinar planned for you. I'm going to share with you secrets of getting admission to top schools around the world with scholarships. And I'm going to dedicate part of the session to question and answers. So whatever questions you have, keep typing them in the chat box and we'll get to those. So let me share my screen and just run through a presentation with you. Okay. All right, perfect. So let's see if I can move this. So we're going to talk about scholarships and fellowships, assistantships, and other options. Now, I'm sure many of you all, of course, have been thinking about studying abroad. I did have several questions from candidates who wanted to study abroad even after the 12th grade, but couldn't do so because of funding. And we all know that studying abroad is expensive. It's a strain on most families, but the lure of studying abroad, which is a high quality education, and possibly then working in an international company is so strong that people at several stages of their education career do think that we want to study abroad. So let's see what are the things that you can do to achieve funding. What are the types of funding that you could possibly get? And how could you really build your profile so that you get that funding? Because you can imagine that at the end of the day, there are limited funds, there's limited scholarships, and only people who have strong profiles get that funding. So what does a strong profile mean? We're going to talk about that as well. Okay, so let's talk about what is financial aid. Now, financial aid is any kind of financial support that you get from a university or a third party. This could be a fee waiver. It could be a fully funded tuition scholarship. It could be accommodation scholarship. It could be partial funding. It could be research opportunities. Any type of financial assistance is classified as financial aid. Now, the most common type of financial aid, of course, is scholarships. You don't have to do anything for this. You need to get excellent grades. You need to have a good application. And just based on that, a university may decide to give you a merit-based scholarship, right? Students get this typically at the universities they're studying from. You could apply for scholarships from external organizations as well. I'll come to that in a bit. But bulk of scholarships come from the university where you're going to be applying to. So this also means that If you say that, well, I want a merit-based scholarship because I have excellent grades and I have excellent test scores, look at universities which are likely to give you that merit-based scholarship. There are some universities which never give merit-based scholarships. We just don't talk about those. There are some which do. So the point for you to take home from here is that look at the right institutes which are giving you merit-based scholarships. Types of scholarships. Now, merit is what we spoke about, excellent grades, excellent test scores. Another type of scholarship or financial aid is a need-based scholarship. So some universities say, okay, you have good grades, but the scholarships we have are reserved for people who are financially weak, people who need financial assistance. What this means is that we need to show your tax papers, your family assets, what kind of income you have, what kind of expenses you have, how many dependents are there in the family. We need to show all of that information, support it with income tax papers and bank statements. And then the university arrives at a number saying that, okay, looking at your papers, we believe that you need this much of financial aid or scholarship, and then you get scholarship. So that's called need-based. And then organization-based. These are third parties. Now, you have different organizations which can give you funding based on community. So we have scholarships for the Sindhi community, Punjabi community, Muslim community. All different communities have their own scholarships. Then there are scholarships based on level of education. So certain scholarships could be for bachelor's degree, certain could be for master's, certain could be for PhDs. So you could apply to a university for merit-based scholarship, to a university for need-based scholarship, and you can apply to external organizations for separate scholarships. So you have three different types of scholarships, and to maximize your chances, you should be applying to all. And then we'll see which ones actually come through. Moving on. How do we apply? Well, you can find multiple scholarships that you're eligible for. You can get to the university website. Once you get to the university website, you can look at the different scholarships that you're eligible for. Go through the scholarship application. Now, a scholarship application typically is a lot like an admission application. So you're going to have questions about your achievements. You're going to have questions about the other honors that you've got in the past. All of this is going to be checked when universities decide to give you a scholarship. Now, apply early. Every year we have thousands of students who are trying for a few hundred spots of scholarships. Not everybody is successful. The greatest chance of you getting that scholarship is if you apply early. So typically we tell students, if you're planning to study abroad, start your process a year and a half before your intended start date. That is early enough for you to start thinking about building your profile. What are the things that are required for admission? And of course, many of the scholarships have early deadlines. So you've got to make sure not to miss any of those deadlines. So these are the four important points when it comes to how to apply for funding. How can I get a scholarship? This is a question that we get all the time. What are the different things that I need to do from now? Now, I see that several of the people who are there in this webinar are people in the first year of college. And this is a great time for you to start thinking about building your profile, because even though you'd be applying for admission 2 years later, you'd be applying after your third year is complete. The process of building your profile is not last minute. It takes time. You have to start thinking about it now. So, for example, so many students tell me that I'm not going to study for the first and second year of college. I study for the last year because it's the last year that matters the most. That is an inaccurate statement. End of the day, the grades that you get in your first year of college, your FY, SY, and TY, all 3-year grades are very important when it comes to admissions and scholarship. In fact, when a university starts looking at your application, the very first thing that they look at is academic consistency. How have you performed in the last couple of years? Or are you just performing in the last year? They see that difference between someone who studies last minute versus someone who's studying throughout. So academic consistency is the most important thing that you have to focus on starting now itself. The next area that universities look at are tests. Now, eventually you may decide to go to the US, which needs the GRE and the GMAT for most of their programs. You may decide to go for a course in the UK, which needs a GRE or GMAT. London School of Economics is a classic example that requires these tests. These tests, you don't have to study for them now, but you have to think about what is it that these tests are going to test me on? And the answer is English and math, two subjects. Math, again, is something which you don't have to work on right now. You can work on it maybe 6 months before you're actually preparing for that test. But what can you do from today? You can focus on that English part. And what does that mean? It means you need to start reading. The more you read, the greater your vocabulary, the better your reading comprehension, the faster you can read. These are the skills that are eventually going to be tested in the GRE or the GMAT. So now is a good time for you to start reading. Read books like novels of your choice. Fiction is great for you to read. But if you start reading like 4 to 5 to 6 books every month, you're indirectly preparing for the GRE or the GMAT. And once you get that really good score in the GRE or GMAT, you're more likely to get a scholarship. So academics and testing are two areas which you should never ignore. Now, other things that you can start doing while you're in college, extracurricular activities, that is. So participating in college festivals, doing research with a professor, writing an article and publishing it on LinkedIn or publishing it in some other journal, writing an article for a magazine, taking part in a paper presentation, starting a club on campus. These are just examples of different extracurricular activities that you can do. You should also try to use some of these activities, or rather do these activities in the major that you want to apply for. So if you're applying for a master's in finance, the university will want to see what are the finance related activities that you've done. If you're thinking of a master's in marketing, then or psychology, then psychology. Any kind of activity that you do, think of it from the perspective of the degree that you're applying for. Then you're going to need letters of recommendation. You've got to be really good to your professors because they're the ones who are going to write these letters of recommendation for you. You need a minimum of 2 letters. I mean, it's too early for you to think about which professors, but keep in mind that you are going to need people to vouch for your candidacy when you apply abroad. You do write essays. Now, this is something which is a medium or a way for the university to understand you better. So if you're going to tell me that, look, I did these activities, these are my awards, these are my honors, these are my achievements, you need to communicate that to the university. And how do you communicate that? Through the essays that you write. So this is a very important part of the application. And so is an interview, because once you communicate what you've done in writing, the universities could have a Zoom call, just like how we are having right now, and they can ask you all the questions that were asked in the application that you wrote. So now it's not writing, but you're actually communicating with that university. So what you could do now is think of building on your communication skills. So if you need to take classes for public speaking, you need to get online and take courses on websites like Coursera, Udemy, edX. The more courses you start taking on the side, the better for you, because you're upskilling. In this particular context, you're upskilling your communication skills. If you tell me that, you know what, I think I want to go in for a master's in finance, well, then you can get on Coursera or Udemy and you can take classes related to corporate finance. You can take classes related to behavioral finance. You can take some classes which are not ordinarily part of your curriculum. Similarly, if you tell me I'm going for a master's in mass media and I'm doing BMM, you could take courses related to storytelling. You can take classes either related to your major, or if it's not related and you want to learn something new, even that's fine. Point is, don't just attend classes. Think of what more you can do with your profile. It could be online classes, online courses on Coursera, Udemy, edX. It could be online internships. So because of the pandemic, people are not stepping out, yes, but I have students who've got onto websites like letsintern.com, internshala.com, and they have bagged online internships. These online internships are really important because at the end of the day, you're still working. You're still getting experience. You put that on your resume that, look, I've done online courses, I've done online internships as well. And then what else could you possibly do? Now, I'm also going to share with you a short video about a candidate who did a lot of different activities, but she worked on entrepreneurship because she wanted to set up her own business. And while she was in school, nonetheless, she set up her own business, and that business gained a lot of traction, became very successful. So, along with all her activities, this one activity of starting a business stood out. Now, for somewhere else, it could not be a business, it could be something else. But for her, it was the business. This stood out, and it was on the basis of this that she got admission and a full scholarship to a university. I'm going to show you her video. I'm just not sure when. I'll show you her video in after a couple of slides so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about, specifically when I'm saying how to build a strong profile, because that is the crux to getting a scholarship. Because there's one thing talking about what are scholarships, what are the types of scholarships, but the most important is how do you actually get that scholarship? And that's what I want to focus on. Okay. Fellowships are short-term work opportunities. It's similar to scholarships. The only difference is that this is where you're working with a professor directly. So some universities have a program where you work with a professor for 20 hours a week. You could either be teaching for that professor, so you're a teaching assistant, or you could be researching for that professor, which means you're a research assistant. And teaching means you teach, research means you research. In either case, you work 20 hours a week while studying. And in exchange, the university pays for your complete tuition. You get 100% tuition scholarship. And then you get a stipend because you're working. And that stipend takes care of your living expenses. So in essence, you're getting 100% tuition waiver and you're getting 100% living expenses waiver. You don't pay a penny for your education. Now, naturally, these awards are super competitive and not all students can qualify for a teaching or a research assistantship. A few years ago, we used to see more of these awards, but as budgets for education have diminished across the world, we are seeing less and less such awards. I still see many students who tell me that I could possibly arrange for funding for the first year of my education, and they get to the university, they approach every single professor that they possibly can, and they do land up with a teaching assistant or a research assistant. So sometimes you can get these awards once you get to campus. Of course, please keep in mind there is no guarantee whatsoever that you can get them. I'm just telling you that it's possible that if you don't get this from the beginning of your education, you could even get it midway or in the second year of your education. All right, let's see what's next. Student loans. So if at all, you try everything. You're like, I built my profile. I did really well in everything you said. I applied to the right kind of institutes. I got admission, but I did not get funding. Your last resort is to look at student loans. Now, in India, you have state banks like the State Bank of India, which gives loans of up to rupees 2 crores, which can cover the entire cost of your education. You need to have guarantee to get this loan. So you need to have some kind of security. That security could be in the form of an asset. It could be a second home, primary home. It could be an office, any kind of asset which covers the amount of loan that you're asking for. The interest rates are currently around 10% and the repayment period is 7 to 9 years after taking the loan. So I do have students who say that, okay, I got 20% scholarship. My family can fund 30% and 50% I'll take as a loan. So it's not an either or thing. Sometimes it's a combination. You can take a little bit of loan, a little bit of scholarship, a little bit of personal funding, and that would cover the entire cost of your education. You also have an opportunity to work on campus. Some countries like the US allow you to work for 20 hours a week on campus while studying. Countries like UK, Canada, Australia allow you 20 hours a week anywhere while studying. Most of the time, you get between $15 to $20 per hour of working, and the money you earn can sometimes pay for your living expenses, but it doesn't contribute towards your tuition. So it's a fallacy to think that I don't have scholarship, I don't have loans, but I'm going to get to campus and I'm going to work and pay for my education, and I won't need funds from home. It doesn't work like that. You could get this part-time job for 20 hours a week, but it would cover only your personal expenses. All right, so these are some tips and strategies. We've covered most of them. Apply for scholarship at the universities. Again, like I said out here, selecting the right kind of university is critical. Research that university to make sure you're applying for the right scholarships. Now, there's sometimes the university says, okay, these are the applications, put them down. And then after you apply, you realize that you didn't get the scholarship because you were never eligible for it. So you've got to make sure that you apply for scholarships that you're eligible for, apply early, submit any relevant essays and documents that are required for that particular scholarship. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to share with you the video of the girl I was telling you about, how she started her business, how impressed the universities were with that, and how she eventually got a scholarship and attended a university. So give me 1 second and I'm going to share this video with you.
I am Almas Mukri. I live in Prem Nagar, area of Wali slum. I studied in Wali Municipal School. My father is a vegetable vendor and he is the only earning member in my family of 5. I came from a background where girls are not allowed to study, let alone work. But my father encouraged me to start my own business called Basket of Joy, online fruit basket company, which creates social impact and spread joy at every step of my business. I was lucky enough to meet many sourcing partners along my ideation journey, which helped me creating value and joy at every step of my business. On my way from school, every Wednesday, I visit an organic fruit and vegetable market. There I met organic fruit vendor who grows his fruits in farm in Pune. This was the inception point for my idea. As I knew I got the provider, I started thinking of packaging and distribution. So I thought of handmade basket instead of harmful plastics. My sister told me about organization where sex workers make basket in affordable price. So I got in touch with them to sort out my packaging. I learned about the courier service company where I got to know deliver boys are deaf and mute. While I had a great idea, I need money. At the same time, I heard about Karan Gupta Education Foundation and I Venture Day business plan competition. I have never presented my idea in front of a hall full of people with light on my face, judges scoring me and all eyes on me. I was nervous, but I had confidence in my idea. I couldn't believe that I was selected as the winner of the social impact competition. I got a prize money of 50,000 Indian rupees. That night when I got home from the event, I got a big check.
वो जीत के आई तो हम लोग सोच नहीं सकते थे कि वो इस तरह से वो जीत सकती है। हम लोग ने कभी वो चीज़ ख्वाब ख्याल में नहीं था कि इस तरह से वो प्राइज़ जीत सकती है, लेकिन वो एकदम हम लोग को शौक लग गया जैसा।
वो जब प्राइज़ मैंने जीत के लाई थी, हमने तो सिर्फ टीवी पे ही देखा था कि ऐसा कुछ मिलता है किसी को जीतने पर। जब वो हाथ में देखे तो हमें तो समझ में नहीं आया कि क्या चीज़ है। मैं बहुत खुश हूँ कि मेरी बेटी इतना आगे गई है। हम लोग तो सोच भी नहीं सकते कि ये ज़माने में लड़कियाँ भी, हमारे मज़हब में मतलब लड़कियों को आगे बढ़ने की इजाज़त नहीं है, बाहर जाकर कुछ करे वो नहीं कर सकती लड़कियाँ, मगर मेरी बेटी ने इतना किया है, मैं तो सोच भी नहीं सकती।
My vision is ensuring that gifting in India becomes synonymous with Basket of Joy. I want to spread joy to over 5,000 people in the next 2 years. I am Almas Mukri and this is my story.
So what did they think of that? Now, Wasn't that such an inspiring story? And if this girl had applied to your university, would you not have given her a full scholarship to get there? Right? Why? Because her profile is exceptional. She created a business which also creates social impact. And the object of the business was to make profit. Nothing wrong with making profit here, but she also created an impact. Think of someone who starts a supply chain and logistics company but employs deaf people. The person is employing a section of society who otherwise would not be employable. That's also a great profile. It's a great business opportunity, it's a great business idea, and it creates impact. So when you start thinking on these lines, that what can I do to become exceptional? And then the universities see that, you're setting the right path to getting funding. You're setting the right path to getting any scholarship that you want. Because end of the day, yes, academics, your test scores, the activities you do, how you show all of that through your essays, resume, recommendation letters, the interview, all of that is important. But think of what really sets you apart. And when you get that answer and you show that in the next couple of years of college life, you can be sure that, okay, I'm not only going to get admission to a school of my choice, but the school's going to give me a scholarship to come there. All right, excellent. So that is the end of my presentation. Now let's get on to questions. Please feel free to put in any questions that you have.
Hi, so we already have a few questions. So somebody has asked, considering a Mumbai University degree is incredibly easy and a lot of us score very well, what is good enough academically?
Could you repeat that last part again? I lost you for a second.
What is good enough academically, considering
Okay.
that?
So if you're looking for
It's
an
not very
absolute...
clear. The question is not very clear. Actually, who
No.
sent this question? Just tell the person to unmute and ask Dr. Gupta.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so basically, the degree is rather easy in the sense a lot of people do get O's and A pluses. So, for example, I have an average of say 9.8 or 9.9. Is that good enough considering it's really easy to get it here? And students who apply from other universities would have a lot of a harder time getting the same score.
Right. Very good question. So see, now universities abroad have been receiving Indian applications for several years. They know that a 90% or a 95% from a University of Gujarat, for example, is not the same as a 60% from the University of Mumbai. So they know what the grading systems are at different colleges. Now, with that said, it's absolute grading, yes, 90, 95, 99, A plus, 4.3 on 4, absolute, versus relative grading. They want to understand that in your cohort, what was your rank? If you have a 9.8, what were people below you? Like, was 9.8 the highest? If yes, I'm really happy with the 9.8 and that's number one for me. If 6.5 is the highest, I want that 6.5 student, right? So it's a relative to your cohort, relative to the other grades that the students in the class have got.
So
Now, you know,
just add on,
yeah, sorry,
a
go
lot
ahead.
of students do get the same grade in the sense an O. It's not just one student, but say 10 or 20 or even 40 or 50 at one point of time. So how does it work there?
Yeah. So assume that several of the students have applied to the same university and the university sees exact grades for 5 students. They move to the next point, which is the testing. And they look at your GRE or your GMAT score and whether you've provided one or opted not to provide one. And now let's assume again that the candidates have the exact same test scores. Then they move to the third area of the extracurricular activities and sees which candidate has been more motivated while applying, which candidate has better activities. Now, once again, assume for the sake of argument that all the activities also are more or less equal for these candidates. They move to another stage, which is what else has the candidate done? The online courses, the internships, any other extracurriculars. And then finally, an interview with the candidate, where they would talk to the two candidates to see which one communicates better, which one is more genuine and more authentic than the other one. So a university can go through multiple areas of your application and then arrive that, okay, this student is the best fit for us. Like, you know how in India, at the end of the day, it's grades, that you have a cutoff, you have like an entrance exam, you get a score, you're in, you don't get the score, you're out. Most universities outside India don't work like that. Some UK schools do, but your US, Canadian, your Asia Pacific schools, they don't. They look at several factors while determining whether you get in or not. All right, next question.
So for the need-based scholarship, university asks for the student financial statements or parents' statements?
It's the family statement. So typically what happens is that most students are still dependents and they are not earning separately. So they ask for both. They want to know if the student has been working, if yes, what income the student is getting and what assets the student already has. And they want to understand who else is in the family, who else are earning members, and what their income is. They also ask for expenses. So they want to understand what are the entire family expenses. All of that is looked at.
Because the university which I have applied for, they were asking for my financial statement only. And they were asking for the mortgage loans and everything. But in India, till the student don't be 21, we cannot take this loans. So we don't have anything to show them that our financial statements are low due to COVID or whatever the situation is. So how do we go through this?
If the university is very specifically asking only for documents pertaining to you, including the financial statements, send them only what they're asking for. And then, of course, you can write an entire explanation as to how you are a dependent, who else are the earning members, and why the financial statements are low.
Okay. So do we have the option to explain our point of view while giving the scholarship?
Always. Universities want to hear everything. I mean, many times in the application itself, they ask you that, is there anything you would like to tell us, which you've not already told us? And if you don't have that question, you can even send them a separate email with the information.
Like, so my father has started a business on my name. So I have my ITR, but my own ITR name. But it is not me who is working, actually.
Right. No, but that is something the universities would not take kindly to. I mean, if there is a business on your name and if there are returns being filed on your name, that is what exactly they're looking for. So for them, it doesn't matter if you are actually working in that business. If it's on your name, I mean, they want to know about it.
So for me, I have to just send my ITRs and a bank statement. That is what I have to show, because loan I don't have, mortgage loan I don't have. So only this financial statements is what I can show. So would it be enough for the need-based scholarship?
Well, yes, if that's what the universities are asking. I mean, many times along with the income tax papers, they ask for proof of assets. So as long as you provide all that information to them, you're good to go. That's all they would want.
Okay, and one more, sir. I just wanted to know about teaching assistants, the thing which you said. So is it there in the UK universities also?
It's more, I mean, it's there in all universities have teaching and research assistants, but it's more common for international students to get them at US universities.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, welcome.
Sir, there's a question. Should scholarships be given paramount importance when choosing which college to apply to?
You know, so this depends on the student's need. If, for example, there's a student who cannot apply or, cannot attend a university without funding, then they must choose universities which are likely to give them funding. If a student says that, well, I can pay for my education and I could arrange for personal funding, financial or family funding, maybe even personal loans, they should ideally try to get into the best possible university that they can. I do get this often that sometimes a student has got admission in a grade, top-notch university with no funding, and then they've got admission in a B grade school with funding. So the student says that, well, if I can pay and if I do have the fund, they take the A grade college and they pay for it.
Okay, sir, thank you. Nihal, you can ask your question.
So I just completed my second year recently. Since universities in the US have deadlines for application, will they accept my grades for 5 semesters? Because the last semester will be held after the deadline of the application date.
Absolutely. Due to COVID, a lot has changed in the university application process. For example, for the 2021 intake, tests became optional when they've never been in the last 25 years. So the GRE, the GMAT, SATs, everything became optional. And some of that is going to actually continue into 2022 and 23 as well. Similarly, universities have made a lot of concession for people who can't submit the 5th semester or 6th semester. So if they tell you that, okay, like, this is our deadline, whatever grades you have available till that deadline will be counted.
Hi, I have a question, if that's okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So as PhDs are usually fully funded and are, dependent on the faculty member more than the university. So how do you navigate about getting a scholarship, or how well in advance do you contact the professor that you would like to work with?
So PhD admissions are handled a little differently. What happens is that for PhD, you've got to have a professor who's willing to take you on as a graduate assistant from the very beginning of your program. So what happens is when you apply for PhD admissions, you apply to the university and you contact the professors at the same time. And if a professor is willing to take you on as a research assistant or a graduate assistant, you get admission, and automatically the university pays for your tuition and living expenses. Some PhD programs are structured in such a way that the first 2 years of the program constitute the masters, and you pay for those yourself with no scholarship. And the latter 3 years, which constitute the PhD, is paid for by the university.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Shreyas?
Good morning, sir. Thank you for that lovely presentation. I had a question which is pertaining to the current time period that we're living in. So when we look at the past 1 year, we've seen that everything's been shifted online, the internships as well as the college. And I feel that we can all agree that that has, when compared to the actual and physical thing, it has some sort of lesser balance to it, and it's less meaningful than the physical aspect. I mean, the college and the internships that happened physically. So because it is very transparent, and we know that a lot of these online internships actually do not really contribute to real value building. So, sir, in these times, how would you say that, what are the sort of avenues that we can take to create real value, and also to add something to our own experiences that actually builds us in a way that is meaningful?
Right. So now, again, universities know that due to the pandemic, people around the world have had very limited opportunity to build their profile. And that does translate to online courses, online internships, everything online. They get that. So while you think that, yes, I don't think I'm getting as much from this experience as I normally would, the universities understand that. And they're not going to penalize you for it. And also take into account that most students applying at the same time as you are in the same boat. They pretty much have the same experiences. So when those people apply to universities, they cannot say that, well, I did these activities on ground, knowing very well that in your region, you could not do them on ground. So I don't think it's going to be a disadvantage.
I have a second question too, sir. How would you, what are the different ways in which you quantify, if you say have a mentor and you've worked with him, you can say that you have worked as an apprentice, but then that is not a very formal position. So how do you quantify that formally?
So again, you have letters of recommendation which are part of your application. You could get a letter of recommendation from this person explaining the relationship and explaining the kind of work that you've done. Sometimes I've had people who have directly emailed the admissions office telling them that, this candidate has applied for admission. He used to work with me. I'm his mentor, and this is the kind of work that he's done. So like a letter of recommendation, but the person directly contacted the universities. That's a possibility too.
Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure.
So there's another question. Can you elucidate on general scholarships available in countries like USA, UK, and the EU?
The question is about general scholarships.
Yes, sir.
So again, this is similar to what we spoke about in the presentation, that you have different types of scholarships. You have merit-based scholarships, which is based solely on your merit, which is your academics and test scores. You have scholarships based on need, which is based on your financial ability to pay for your education. These are the two broad categories. And then the third one would be external scholarships that you apply for, not from the university, but from external organizations that provide funding.
Okay, so and somebody has asked your experience with IE and HPS.
Both were very, very interesting experiences. IE Business School, located in Madrid, Spain, was a very interesting experience because it was very international. More than 90% of the class was from different parts of the world. The focus of the education was a lot on innovation, change, a lot on disruptive technologies. That was a very, very interesting part of my early education, doing an MBA from Spain, being with international students, learning from students from all over the world. The Harvard experience was very different in contrast. The Harvard experience was focused a lot more on changing the world, leaving a legacy, creating impact. So they both were very, very different. They both were stark different. And both, I think, taught me very different things and shaped who I am today and shaped all the things that I believe in. A lot of that has come from the varying experiences that I've had at both the institutes. At the end of the day, my undergrad was also in the US. I did my undergrad from, first I was at Cornell and then University of Texas at Austin. And that again was a very different experience again, because it was liberal arts and humanities mixed with business. It was a complete like eye-opening experience, more like the foundations. And then came, of course, the work experience, and then the IE Business School's MBA and Harvard's executive MBA. So all these different educational experiences, and what I truly also believe in, and what I saw in a lot of my classmates as well, you can get a really good education no matter where you are. It's what you take from it. I've had people in my class at Harvard who were unemployed for more than a year after they finished the program. And why were they unemployed? Not because Harvard did anything wrong, because they didn't care. They didn't take any steps to network. They didn't take any steps to apply from companies. Their approach was, I'm from Harvard, I should get a job. It didn't work like that. The steps you take, the networking you do, the effort you put into your own education and your own achievement, that's what's eventually going to determine your success. Is going to determine the kind of companies you get jobs with. It's going to determine the university you get into, right? All of that is from the efforts that you're going to take.
Okay, sir, thank you. That was very well put. And we take last two questions. Do summer schools play an important role to get exposure of a particular university that a student plans to attend later?
Well, summer school is again one of the ways to build your profile. It's one activity. Now, this year, of course, doing an online summer school does not make sense. You would rather just take online courses on Coursera or Udemy or edX. If next year you get an opportunity to do summer, I think it's a great experience for you to get international experience, to get that flavor of studying abroad. it's a plus point. Now, if you tell me that I have a better internship in Bombay itself, then yes, take that internship. It's not like summer school is mandatory. It's not like you have to have it. Also, summer school adds on to your expenses. So if you tell me that, look, I'm anyway going to be spending for my education abroad, I may get a partial scholarship, I still have to contribute some amount for my education. Then don't do summer. So it's not like summer's mandatory. Now, if you tell me, on the other hand, I have my internship all done already. I have online courses. I've written a paper and I got it published. I participated in many extracurricular activities. I've done well academically. I've done well for my tests. Now what to do? Do summer. Add that one more activity, and so just prioritize the activities carefully.
All right, thank you. Another one that we've gotten a few times is, what are some names of like general scholarships, external scholarships that we can consider for countries like US that have a lot?
So, one of the ones which is really popular is the INLAX. The INLAX Foundation. That scholarship can cover your entire tuition, living expenses, travel expenses, personal expenses, every single penny. As you can imagine, it's one of the most competitive scholarships there is out there. So INLAX is something which is really good, INLACS. And then you have the British Council Chevening and other scholarships that British Council offers. Now, those are more for UK universities, of course. But through the British Council, you have a whole list of different scholarships which Indian candidates are eligible for. Then you have the Tata scholarships. We again have several students who get those. They are also very popular. There is a website, wemakescholars.com. Let me see if I can type that here. Check the site out. The site kind of lists out the different types of scholarships that are available. So you could get onto the site, make a little search on terms of what type of scholarship you're looking for, and check it out. In addition, check out the British Council website. And of course, for loans, SBI is the best agency. For international loans, you can look at a company called Prodigy. They give loans as well. Check these out. These are some good resources for funding.
Okay, so do we have any more questions?
We just take one last question. Is work experience mandatory to get into an Ivy League business school for MBA?
Absolutely. If so, for MBA, the concept is not to do it straight after graduation like we do in India, except at ISB in India, which now needs 2 years experience. You need to have 3 to 5 years experience after you finish the bachelor's degree if you're thinking of an MBA. Without work experience, you are not going to get a top university. It's impossible. Some top universities like Harvard, Stanford, and Yale have an early admission program where you apply in the last year of your college. And if you do get in, you work for 2 years and then you join the MBA program. But the offer of admission is given to you in the last year of college. To get into this kind of a program, of course, is very competitive because you have to show all the skills what an MBA candidate would have had, you show it while you're in college. So practically speaking, it's very hard to get into this program. You'd be looking at an MBA after 3 to 5 years of full-time work experience after the bachelor's.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Yash, Dhanvan, sorry.
Yes. Okay. So I think with that, the session comes to an end. So I would like to thank you, especially for being here and accepting our offer. And truly, we loved the seminar, and it was so informative. And I think so for any student in the bachelor's degree, scholarships is something that they think throughout, because it's one of a kind experience for them to get an opportunity to go abroad and study, and plus getting money for it, getting it done for yourself, it's amazing. And your seminar has taught us everything that we required for understanding how scholarships work. and how universities accept your offers and how you need to mold yourself into a perfect candidate. So I would again like to thank you again for joining in, even at a time which is you are in USA and it's very late. So I thank you for coming for this seminar. And
So
Chandana,
yes, I'll just move
yes.
in. Dr. Gupta, is there some way our students can connect with you? Is there any email that you would like to give us?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Is there some way students, yeah, so students, please take a note of sir's email ID. And of course, I have the email IDs as well since we connected. But the option of you directly connecting with sir is what the whole idea is about, because he has massive amount of experience, which I think none of us can give you. And a lot of people that you see around in Bombay will have a commercial bent of mind, but if you see sir's work, he has been working consistently towards even social initiatives. So that's a phenomenal body of work that he has, and that little girl's story, I think, says it all. So we should look forward to some further associations, Dr. Gupta, and we'll be in touch if it's fine with you. And
Absolutely.
if our college would definitely like to host you again once we become, or the things become normal and you're back in Bombay. So that would be a nice time where students can actually get the feel of talking to you in person. So we'll welcome you one more time then. And anytime you have any way in which our students can connect, do let us know. We'll definitely try to pitch in and aid your institution, your foundation, that is, in certain way or the other. So all the best for your activism. I think that's where nobody else can pitch in, and your passion for supporting students. But just before we also would like to think on these lines is, what I think the students are not able to figure out is, they want scholarship, they don't know how to go about it, right? I think that's where the basic problem really is. So they think it's just click a button and the scholarship will come in. It's a long process for it. So if they've been able to understand that this preparation is very important, I think our entire today morning's session and late night session for you has been very effective. So students, take what sir said. Little girl should teach you how to go about it. I think she's a phenomenal fighter in her own way. So thank you very much, Dr. Gupta. It was a pleasure to hear you. Wish you good night, because that's what we can do right now, or it's good morning from our side. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure. All the best, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.